you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.
You're tapped in, so let's get to it. Captain Ibrahim Traore, president of Burkina Faso, took the time out to sit with the youth of Burkina Faso, the Burkinabe youth. These young individuals are what they describe themselves as young journalists in the country. And for whatever reason, they decided that they wanted to have a sit down with their president, Captain Ibrahim Traore. And to a lot of their delight, he accommodated them. And I think he did just a great job, just fabulous man in that he saw the youth, he saw himself in the youth, and he decided to take that time and share with them his life, especially as a child growing up in Africa or in Burkina Faso. So this is, to me, one of those telling moments when, especially people of power, politicians, presidents, what have you, are willing to take the time out and sit with children and talk with them on their level. You don't see this often, nowhere around the world. You don't see Donald Trump sitting with, in a room full of young children, asking questions, being asked questions by these young children and answering not just forthrightly, but honestly, with integrity, dignity, and respect. This is something we're quite sure of here at Tapped that Donald Trump cannot do or is enabled to accomplish. And he's just one of many. When we talk about so-called leaders of the world, you see this rarely. So in that respect, we thought that it was incumbent on us here at TAP to share this with the rest of you. Captain Ibrahim Traore sitting with young Black journalists in Burkina Faso. So let me drop this clip and give you guys a bar of what was exchanged between them. Again, we find this fascinating. We find this informative as much as it could be labeled educational, but educational especially for the youth, You can also say for Ibrahim Traore as well. We take from the interview he gave or he had with these young journalists, we saw it as a learning point or a learning curve for him as well. All right. So that being said, let's get to this clip. Before we do, as always, please like, share, comment, follow, and subscribe to The Art of Political Discourse. You are now tapped in. All right. And this is courtesy of the United States of Africa. So let's get into this.
Bring you a special interview from Burkina Faso, where Captain Ibrahim Traore speaks with young journalists about his childhood, his family values, education, discipline, and his journey before becoming head of state. Second, the discussion turns to children affected by terrorism, school closures, modern education, disability inclusion, and the government's vision for free education. Third, the president speaks about the security situation, the fight against terrorism, support for displaced children and orphans, and the importance of leadership among the youth. Fourth, Captain Traore addresses patriotism, food self-sufficiency, civic responsibility, agriculture, health, and the need to teach African children the truth about their countries. Finally, children from the audience ask questions about peace, children's rights, healthcare, child marriage, and child labor in gold mining areas. Those are today's top stories. We begin with our first report. In this first video, Captain Ibrahim Traore sits down with child journalists in a historic interview. He reflects on his childhood, the sacrifices of his parents, the values of discipline and integrity, and how his early life shaped his path into the military and leadership. Let us watch the first report.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us from the Kuluba Palace in Ouagadougou. I am Lalia Mardia Coulibaly, a journalist and presenter at Deni Voice, and I am very happy to welcome you to this special program with an equally special person, the President of the Transition Head of State, Captain Ibrahim Traore himself. Good evening, Mr. President.
Good evening.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, this interview is a first in our country, and we thank you for your availability to speak to the children and with the children. I am not alone in conducting this interview. I will let everyone introduce themselves.
Hello, Mr. President.
Hello.
My name is Warren Ashley Nakima, a journalist and reporter for DeFi Junior.
Hello.
I am currently a school correspondent and also a journalist presenter at Deni Voice.
Good evening, Mr. President. My name is Yago Leila Rosine, a journalist at DeFi Junior.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear colleagues. Your Excellency, Mr. President of the Transition, how does it feel to be interviewed by child journalists?
All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. I must say that I am moved, first of all. It's also the first time that I have met child journalists with such unparalleled public speaking skills. Congratulations to you. It gives me great pleasure, and I think this will be a moment of exchange between us, and that you will be able to learn many things from it, just as I, too, will learn many things from you.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are also happy to have this moment with you. Could you tell us a little about your childhood and your professional career before becoming president of our country?
I dare you to let me build you a completely free e-commerce store.
I was born in a village called Kera, which is located in the Boucle du Mohun region, where I spent part of my childhood, but mostly a large part of it in Bondokui, which is about 15 kilometers from Kera. My childhood, I didn't necessarily grow up in a financially well-off family. And there are many things that one must understand as a child, especially when growing up. What is most important to remember? And this is an opportunity for me to thank parents. At your age, it's not obvious, but when I was in your shoes, what I remember most from my father was at the end of every month when I would see him with his slate calculating. At the end of every month, he would calculate, and when he retired, it was every 3 months he would calculate. But later, when I grew up, I understood what he was calculating. It's difficult when you have a salary and must figure out how to feed, clothe, care for, and send your children to school. It's difficult when you have a salary and you have to figure out how to feed the children, how to send them to school, how to care for them, how to clothe them. So those were the kinds of calculations he was making. So this is to tell you that parents worry a lot about us. They fight for us, and you cannot imagine how much. Many of you, when you grow up one day, you will understand. For us, we had to grow up to be able to pay tribute to our parents today. There is also something I learned from my father, a phrase he would always tell us at home: execution before complaint.
Execution before complaint. What does that mean? You know, do most of us, or can most of us, comprehend that phrase, that saying? Execution before complaint.
Because he was also in the military before later becoming a nurse. We obeyed him immediately and did exactly what he asked us to do. And even if we did not want to do it, you had to execute the order first, and later you could make your point understood.
Execution before complaint. Execute what's asked of you, what you know you are responsible for, what you can be or will be held accountable to. Execute that first. Do that first. And if you still have a sense of dissatisfaction or a complaint, then and only then do you voice that complaint. Execute first, though, then complain.
There are a certain number of values that our parents instilled in us. First, concerning integrity, honor, and dignity. These are important qualities and values we learned with them, and they truly forged us. and perhaps even allowed us to become who we are today. As I said, my parents were not necessarily financially comfortable, but that is no reason to go begging. It is no reason to whine or to go lie or steal. It was forbidden, strictly forbidden. So there are a certain number of values that, even though you may not be well off, you must embody. Solidarity, for example. We were always taught to share with others. And I think
another one, solidarity, coming together and knowing that when you do, you're coming into contact with people that you should care for, you look out for, that you share with. You know, you want them to be in a good place or just as good as place as you. You know, that's that solidarity that a lot of us in our communities lack. That solidarity where it is exhibited in how we treat one another, how we love and respect one another, and how dignified we are, not just of ourselves, but those we profess to love. You know, solidarity makes way for concern, support of our people and each other.
there were times when perhaps we were not on the same page. We were children, we did not understand why our mother, you know that in the village, other people's children can come and spend a year, 2 years with you to study or what have you, those who leave the smaller villages and come to the city. So when she would give us 2 cakes, perhaps she would give 3 cakes to the other child. And for us, well, as children, that made us a little jealous. Why don't you give us the same amount? Why even take better care of someone else's child than your own children? She would always tell us that you will understand when you are older, the day you are perhaps no longer by our side. When you are grown, you understand. And we also learn to share with others. That is what we were forged in. And me in particular, I did a lot of household chores, what one might call girls' chores. I would help my mother wash her dishes, sell her donuts, and everything. People may have made fun of me, my classmates at school, but for me, it was a way to support her. Because it is not easy to see her get up at 5 in the morning, you know, every day, to make her donuts before going to school. During recess, I was the first one out. I would run to her spot and help her sell her donuts. My classmates could make fun of me and all, but I helped her however I could. So that's kind of what marked my early childhood. I found myself free at 14 years old. And when I say free, I truly mean that I found myself all alone in Bobo, completely free to do whatever I wanted. But you're not a child just because of your age. It's really all in your head. And from that moment on, I understood that I had to take my life seriously. Because when I say free at 14, you're free to do whatever you want. You have the choice to be lazy, to stop working, to stop going to school, but also the choice to keep going, to persevere. Because since primary school, you might be told that I was always first in my class, but that wasn't for nothing. Because my father, he didn't play around. He took all his time to teach us at home. And on the weekends, if he gave you a math problem or some operations or a dictation and you didn't get it right, you didn't get to eat breakfast. So that's a little bit of how things were, but it forged us and it made us the men we are today. And we hope to be able to live up to that and to pass that on to you, the children here. And I think that every parent should give the best of themselves. And you too should be grateful and recognize the work that parents do to care for us, to well take care of you.
What if I told you that the moment your book is published, there could be a giant billboard featuring you and your book in Times Square? And in addition, a video trailer that tells your book's story, a paid advertisement.
So that's a summary, I would say, of my early childhood, how it went, and what we experienced. What about your professional career? I must say that there's one thing. Today, I am the head of state, but I was, how should I put it? I went through primary school, secondary school, and university, just like everyone else. But the love for being a soldier has always been inside me. As I said, the old man was a soldier before he became a nurse. Ever since I was a child, his combat boots, his heavy helmets that were at home, I would wear them. So I know that he knew I had a love for the profession. But my mother never wanted to have a child in the military. And in 4th grade, I took the excellence competition. And in 5th grade, my teacher wanted me at all costs to take the entrance exam for the Prytanée, but my mother was fiercely opposed. She had surely seen my father suffering as a soldier, so she didn't want any of her children to be in the military. She refused. I kept on working hard. I have a scientific inclination, which is why I followed a scientific track all the way to university, where I studied geology. After my baccalaureate, I wanted to join the army again, but she refused. But when she refused me something, I couldn't force the issue, because if you force it, it's not right. So I continued. During my master's year at university, I asked her again. I told her, it's the army I want. I was doing well in geology. I could have done whatever I wanted. There you go. I had many scholarship opportunities because I wasn't at the bottom of my class, you know. There you go. But it was during my master's year that she finally gave me permission, and I took the academy's test. I went for my training, and well, I became an army officer. I was convinced. If she gave me her blessing, if she told me to do it this time, then I was convinced, and I knew what I was doing. This is to tell you that, as I was saying, at 14, you find yourself all alone in a big city. It's not easy. I was at the Lycée Mixte Dakarville, for example, for secondary school, but I was living in Sarfalao, which is about 7 kilometers away. But I'm telling you, I walked for a good while. Morning and evening, I would walk there and back until maybe a friend of an older brother lent me his bicycle. But I believed in what I wanted. It was, how can I put it? For us, it's a conviction. It's what our father taught us since childhood. As I told you, he guided us, and we always wanted to be better. And so we never gave up. The goal was to always be better at school, and that meant nothing could lead us astray. And with the education we received, even if we didn't eat, that's no reason to get discouraged. Yes, because those 3 years of secondary school weren't that simple. It was a bit difficult. 1 meal a day, very often, but that's okay. I cooked for myself. I did everything myself. But I had to stay focused on the objective. What kept me going was that at the end of the term, you know, I had to get a certain grade, and that was it. So that's what guided us, if I may say so. Does that satisfy you, or should I go into more detail on certain points that you...
No, thank you. That's enough.
All right.
So the rapport between him and the children, I have to say it's exemplary, you know. And they seem to all be attentive. You could catch them smiling when you say certain things, and that's just an indication that, okay, they're going through the same things at their homes, you know, where they live. So there is a connection there also, you know, experience, you know, when we have the same experiences, then, you know, we pretty much understand what's being said, especially when we're talking in this light, or the conversation is geared towards some specific in the life of the youth who have parents that actually care for them more than they know. You know, to hear an adult speak of certain things in terms of his upbringing, his growing up, that relates to what they're going through as they grow up, is something you can see registering with these children as he speaks. You know, the smiles, the facial expressions that they're displaying after every sentence or paragraph he's talking or speaking about some experience within the home and outside while going to school, things of that nature. They're relating because those are experiences they have, you know. It's a beautiful sight, beautiful sight.
I'll pass the floor to my colleagues for the rest of the interview.
Welcome back. We now move to the second part of this special interview. In this section, the young journalists ask about children who have been forced out of school because of terrorism. Captain Traore explains his government's plan to reopen schools, build modern learning centers, support children with disabilities, and move toward free education for all. Let us watch the second report.
All right. Mr. President, we see that many of our brothers and sisters are not in school because of terrorism. What do you plan to do to support and facilitate their schooling?
You are absolutely right. Many have been forcibly removed from school because of this phenomenon that brings us grief. I think that for this school year, we were still able to reopen many schools, but I must say that our ambition is to be able to create modern schools. Modern schools in the sense that we must first create real communities where we can establish all the socio-professional structures. And school is part of that. We think every day about creating modern schools. Because today there are many villages that people cannot return to or that people had to abandon. Currently, people are in certain centers. We have created a framework so that they can study, but that is not the best setting for us. So we want people to return to the major centers, but we also want to create modern schools. That is, schools where children can truly thrive. It's not about having a classroom with, 100 or so students, which is quite overcrowded, and where instructors have a hard time teaching. Otherwise, that situation already exists. We have set a number of conditions, but the objective is to truly to build modern schools. This year, we have already been able to build a few schools in certain cities. It's true that people may not have this information, but perhaps the report will be made soon. Schools were built even before the holidays in certain centers where there have been many displaced people. But the objective, when we bring people back to their schools, is to create new schools where children can learn and truly flourish. So that process is also underway. We have opened many schools for this new school year. So many students have gone back to class. Many centers that were closed have reopened. But we are in the process of building new modern schools so that the children can study and have, the same opportunities as those who are in the unaffected areas.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, we would like to know what the government is doing to guarantee the protection of the rights and the safety of children in Burkina Faso.
I think that is, in my opinion, truly the main mission of the government. The entire fight that people are waging is to guarantee the rights of children, if I may say so. First, the right to life, which is a right for everyone. Everyone has the right to life. So everything we are mobilizing, everything we are doing right now is to fight this terrorism. It is to first guarantee the right to life. And when we say the right to life, that means the right to protection for children. You see, when a father takes up arms, generally to fight evil, he is not doing it for himself. He is doing it for you, the children. If he takes up a weapon and faces the enemy, he is ready to die, but it is to ensure your protection. It is to protect you. So it is our duty to create these conditions so that men can fight, but also to ensure the protection of you, the children. Today, we are living through a certain situation, but we hope that your lives will be better than ours. That those who do not have certain privileges will have them tomorrow. Because we are convinced that these conditions can be met in Burkina Faso. So we must fight this evil, ensure your right to life, which is the fundamental right, and therefore ensure your protection, but also so that you can fulfill your duties, because it's not just about rights. I believe you know this well, as was said, rights and duties. Just as we ensure your rights, we do everything possible so that you can express yourselves and fulfill your duties. So that is the primary task of the government, to do everything possible so that you can grow up and be educated in fairly serene conditions. All right? Have I more or less answered your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
All right.
Mr. President, we see that there are many children living with a disability who are not in school due to a lack of adapted schools or because their parents do not have enough means. What can you do to solve this problem?
You are absolutely.
Yeah, these are some real questions, and they're coming from child journalists, children who I like to imagine now would one day be journalists, Again, these are not watered down questions. Very good.
Absolutely right. And we also went to the same schools. And as you say, we have often noticed that not much attention has been paid to this aspect for some time now. We went to schools where, for example, for those with motor disabilities, there were no provisions for even ramps to allow them to access the school and all that. But I think these are things that are being corrected now. And as I was telling you earlier, we are planning to build modern schools. There are those, for example, with motor disabilities, they will have their basic rights respected in this type of school.
Good.
For the visually impaired, I think Braille is being developed. So there are many factors that we are currently studying to integrate into these modern schools I'm talking about. We must indeed take into account the children who have disabilities so that they are not left on the sidelines. And for those who don't have the means, I'm going to tell you something. The objective is to make school free. There are many countries where education is free. Here, it is possible. It's possible because we have spent time being made to understand, as I say, that we are poor, but we are realizing we are not poor. Governance is the problem. And I think that is why we revolted. And we are doing everything we can to create the conditions so that these questions, you will not have to ask them in the years to come. And say that children with disabilities, if they don't have the means, education must be a right, it is a right, and it must be a reality. And it must be free. The dream is to get there. Many countries do it today. Why couldn't we do it in Burkina Faso? So our fight is to be able to make education free, so there will be no question of means, and to create all the conditions so that whether you live with a disability or not, you can therefore benefit from an education. You can be reassured about that.
Yeah.
Have I somewhat answered the question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Up to this point, he's been a man of his word, especially in terms of governance or governing Burkina Faso. What he has brought to the country, his short time as president of the country, is way more than what has been brought or what we've seen delivered or granted, given to Burkina Faso when the colonizer was there. When France was there, France's main concern was, and still is to this day, only about resources, extracting raw materials and then exporting those raw materials back to France to be refined and processed. Up to this point, we know for a fact, Captain Ibrahim Traore has shut the door to French corporations and mining companies, as well as to French politics and diplomacy. Shut the door to French military. All that is gone now. And in its place is Burkina Faso rising above expectations that were suggested by those who were expelled and kicked out, as much as by the IMF and the World Bank, that what they plan to do or accomplish in Burkina Faso for the people's sake would be impossible. It has been everything but that, you know. This guy and his administration, as much as the Burkinabe people are seeing to it that they're not trying to prove anyone wrong, but they're seeing to it that they do for themselves rather than depend and or beg others to do things for them. So again, you have to congratulate this individual, this president, this man of Burkina Faso.
Now, I invite you to watch a vox pop that we have produced. The children share with us their dreams for Burkina Faso. They were interviewed by Faisal Sore and Nadi Traore, journalists.
Bar Divine Glory Saturn. My dream for Burkina Faso is for people to always show respect towards their elders and the authorities. My name is Wedrago Gladys. My dream is to be a doctor because I want to treat people who are sick. I want Burkina Faso to be at peace and for no one to be sick in Burkina Faso.
My name is Compaore Olivier. My dream is to be a representative, to work to develop the country.
My name is Gwen Fatimata. As a child, I want all children to be able to go to school without being afraid. For all the internally displaced people to be able to return to their villages. That there is plenty of food in the FASO.
My name is Wedrago Abubakar Siddiq. My dream is for Burkina Faso to be at peace and for me to be able to go to school so I can become a nurse one day. And for Burkina Faso to develop.
My name is Solama Juma Dole Oleya Faimawage. What I want for Burkina, I want peace to return to the FASO, for every child to have a loving and supportive family, that girls are not forced to get married, and that all children can go to school.
My name is Moire Abdul Rauf Ridwan. In the future, I see a better Burkina. I want health for Burkina. Health, happiness, and well-being. Peace. And most of all, I want all the children of Burkina Faso to go to school.
Hi, this is Tom.
Mr. President, your reaction after what you have just seen.
There's one of your classmates, Ridwan, is that right? Who says that he dreams of a future there for Burkina Faso where there is happiness, peace. He has summed up many things. That is also our dream. Many talk about peace, returning to school, and so on. I see that you are not naive children. The situation has made you adults. And that is everything that we also believe in. Peace must return. You must return to school so that everyone can find their friends, so that you can commune, so that you can share, so that you can live your childhood. We lived more or less in peace. And if today children are unable to live this minimum of love that they were able to share there, it makes us uneasy. So the fight is to bring back that peace. And also, as he said, a better future, happiness, development, it is possible. Because I can assure you that your teachers, and in any case, the educators are every day working diligently and with great dedication to create the conditions for you to be able to learn about the real Burkina. Because what we learned is not necessarily actually good for the mind. What do I mean by that? For example, you are not told about all the potential of Burkina. We must be able to teach you that. So your school textbooks will surely change. People are working hard to include the realities in them. We learned many lies because that's what imperialism wanted us to learn. But we want to change that with you. That you learn the realities of Burkina and that we can get to work together and be able to get the country out of this situation. All right? And it is very possible. Eating your fill is possible. He said it. Now, do many people today, especially those in school, for example, actually do gardening activities? I know that each of us had a plot in the school garden. Morning and evening, we watered our plants. We did many things in a practical way. And it's a way of learning agriculture from a young age. And that can help contribute to us being self-sufficient. So every child must eat their fill. A child should not be hungry. So that is the fight we are waging. I am very moved, and I am very happy that you think the same way. All right? We are encouraged by this.
Welcome back. Our third report focuses on security, national defense, and the future of Burkina Faso's children. Captain Traore speaks about the fight against terrorism, the organization of the army, support for orphaned and displaced children, and how young people can grow into leaders of integrity. Let us watch the third report.
Now, I will say that we're going to make a second piece to this episode to this because I find it very interesting. I would like to also, though I'm not a child of Burkina Faso, I would also like to know where they are in terms of securing the country and fighting this proxy war with France, fighting against France in France's attempt to destabilize the country by supporting JNIM, Al-Qaeda, and ISIS to, again, destabilize the country. There's, I think, a reason behind that. Once, let's say, they're successful, then France can then tell the United Nations and the world we're going back in there, whether they like it or not, because this affects the whole region or whatever, right? I would like to know or hear from Captain Ibrahim Traore in that regard, in that respect. And now also I would like to know what he's going to tell the children, you know. And again, he said, and I have to agree, they've had to grow as a result of all this turmoil, you know, this terrorism, you know, and this destabilization of the country, this poverty. They've had to grow. They haven't very much had an opportunity to live and grow as children because of these circumstances that are taking place there. So with that said, I will create a part 2 to this, because again, I'm just as interested as the children in finding out or hearing what Captain Ibrahim Traore, the president of Burkina Faso, has to say about this. So until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.
You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution.